Hey guys, Brian Hilliard here, and I am here with Dare Robertson, who is in the handbags and accessories industry. And thank you so much for coming by. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. You know, one of the things I always kind of start off with is, and we've known each other for a little bit at one of my presentations and things like that.
Now.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly right. I always like to get a feel for people's story.
Okay.
You know, get a feel for their story. In direct sales, and you know this probably better than I do, everybody comes for a different reason.
Sure.
Okay, the path to where they get to, where you get to as a leader in your organization is different. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how you maybe got started and just a little bit of your story on how you even got into this whole thing in the first place, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, started out like everybody else, pretty much working full-time. I was a brand new mom, and growing up, I always knew I wanted to own my own business.
Okay.
I always wanted to set my own hours. I always wanted to be that mom that could be there for the school functions, the field trips, and things like that.
Right.
And so one day I was sitting on my couch just after my son was born and saw this infomercial that came on and saw this really cool handbag, this really unique product, and you know, it showed it to some girlfriends. They saw the infomercial and kind of fell in love with the concept of it because I love handbags. What woman doesn't?
Okay. My wife doesn't actually. Interestingly,
she doesn't?
No, I don't know why, but
there are a few women out there.
There's some holdouts, but 99.9%.
I would say 99.9% of
yes.
women.
Totally.
It's a love-hate relationship sometimes, but we carry them. So I saw this concept, and being a busy mom and having a full-time job and working 60 hours plus a week, it just kind of went in the back of my mind.
Right.
And one day I was walking around a Christmas show here in town, and saw this handbag again. Right. And said, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit deeper look at it. Right. So I did. I hosted a party. Okay. My friends, my family, all the women there absolutely fell in love with it. Okay. I had dabbled in direct sales a little bit before this. Before this company came along, and fell in love with the concept and said, I really think that I could probably sell this. So, why not? It was a very, like most direct sales companies, have a very low entry fee to start your own business. So it's a great, great way for women to kind of try their hand at entrepreneurship, see if it's a good fit for them. Right. And so that's kind of what I did. I said, I'm going to, invest in it. I'm going to pay the small startup fee. Right. I'm going to try my hand in it again, see how it works. And the concept just took off. Friends, family, women all over town loved it. Right. And I quickly was able to grow a very successful business in a short amount of time. Right. And in about 6 months left my full-time job. And
you mentioned a few good things. I mean, you mentioned a lot, but the first thing was that you were doing this part-time.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think a lot of people who are listening, people who are watching, there's this conversation, they say, oh, well, Dare, you've got this team of, X number of people, you're making, Y money or whatever it is, and, they're like, oh, well, I couldn't be like that. And I'm sure you've run into recruits in that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I myself sat at one of the first conferences.
Yeah, and you're thinking that.
And I said, oh my goodness, I could never be like this person. I could never be like this person. And the truth is if you want it bad enough, you can be that person. You can be that person walking the stage. Right. It took me two and a half, 3 years to earn my first incentive trip. Okay. I didn't earn it as fast as some people did. It's fine. But now I've earned every single one since. Okay. I've walked the stage at every single conference since. Okay. And, I just still sit there among these women that my first year in the business, I looked at these women and went, wow, I could never do what they've done, and you can. You absolutely can. When you put your mind to something, we all know that you can, and it's very cool to now walk that stage holding those same women's hands that I once sat in the seats and admired and said, I want to be like them one day. That is awesome.
Let me ask you another question that I like, which is, you also mentioned that you were in a full-time job.
I was.
And, there's a lot of people who are in a full-time job. So maybe there's somebody who's listening or watching who is in a corporate job. Sure. Or maybe or whatever. It doesn't have to be a corporate job per se, but let's just say that now. They're in a corporate job. What would you give as some advice so they're doing this part-time, they're in a corporate job, let's just say, and they're looking to get out of Dodge in the next 6 to 12 months, just to throw out a number. What are some steps? Yeah.
Sure. So, first of all, you have to break it down. There are 3 different types of people.
Okay.
3 different types of career paths in direct sales.
I'm listening.
So the first career path is, somebody that wants to do this full time. And the truth is not everybody wants to do this full time.
Right.
The beauty of direct sales, the beauty of the network marketing world is that it's on your schedule.
Right.
It's what you want out of it.
Right.
So if you're not someone that wants to do it full time, if you're not someone that dreams about leaving their full-time job for whatever reason, you don't have to,
right.
and you can still be wildly successful.
Okay.
So there's the full-timers, then there's the part-timers, then there's the people that, want to grow a business, they want this as a second source of income, but they're not ready to leave their full-time job, or they're not going to leave their full-time job.
Right.
They don't desire to do this full-time. So those are your part-timers. And then there are your hobbyists. They kind of just do it on a referral basis for friends, maybe to earn a little bit of free product. And their goal is not to take the business and make a business out of it.
Right.
There's that saying that, full-time jobs, part-time jobs make us money.
Right.
Hobbies cost us money.
That's true.
Unless you're very, very, very good at your hobby,
right.
your hobby costs you money.
Right.
The truth is probably 85% of women in the direct sales industry work full-time.
Interesting, right, because it's a part-time.
Absolutely.
Right. 2
of my top leaders in my organization, in our team, both work full-time. One is also a student full-time.
Okay.
And a mom.
Right.
And a wife.
Right.
And she's one of our top leaders on our team.
Right.
Because she wants it.
Okay, okay. So then what would you give as steps? What would you give as steps for people if they're in a full-time job, but let's just say they did want to go to direct sales or full-time thing. What would you give as thoughts? Like what would you think your experience?
My suggestion, if you're wanting to move from full-time to full-time in, corporate America and wanting to go more full-time with your network marketing direct sales company, the first step would be to have a conversation with your spouse, if you have one, and put some goals in place.
Okay.
Find out what kind of income is it that you will need to get out of your direct sales company in order to supplement that income by leaving your full-time job.
Totally get that.
One of the first things that you have to determine is it possible for your family to do something like that?
Okay.
And then when you figure out that it is, one of the next step I would say is put together some goals.
Okay.
Okay, whether it's financial goals, whether it's, we need to pay off some credit cards first, it's this, our child needs to be in kindergarten first. Put together some goals.
Okay.
And you have to do this as a team.
Okay.
This cannot be something that just you do by yourself.
Interesting.
It has to be with your family. You need your family's support on it. So I would definitely say, have that open conversation, set some goals, and really, really think about your goals. You want a timetable almost. You want a timetable of, okay, in X number of months, in a year, in 2 years, this is the goal, this is the amount of income that I need. Then I would say sit down with your leader.
Okay.
Sit down with your leader, sit down with some of the other women or talk with some of the other women that are in your field, in your specific company, and ask them, what do you need to do? You need to figure out, maybe how many parties you need to be doing. Maybe how many personal one-on-one care sessions. Maybe how much in sales, how much volume you need a month. And those are some of the key factors that you have to figure out. Once you figure out how much volume you need each month, then you have to break it down into how many parties, how much you need to do on a weekly basis, and how much you need to grow your business in order to get there. The only way you can do this is through goal setting and through great time management.
You brought up some good points again. The time management, I love that. We'll talk more about that. But the one that you brought up earlier was the role of the family.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Sure.
You talked about your spouse, the role of the family. What do you do to kind of get their buy-in on, because, if we're going to be frank, there's some people in a family basis that are not only not on board, but can almost be counterproductive.
Absolutely.
Out of their way, you'd be better off if they weren't there. And what is it that you would, maybe there's some people who are going through that. What's some advice, whether it's a husband or if it's a whatever the case may be, how do you engage and how do you get people to buy into what it is that you're doing, or what do you do?
So I actually ran into that myself. When I first talked about leaving my full-time job. We had a financial advisor at the time, and my financial advisor looked at me flat out and said, "It's a fad."
Really?
It's a fad. How do you know it's going to be a substantial amount of income for you? How do you know it's going to sustain you, for years and years to come? And I just kind of looked at him and said, "I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to put a plan together, and you're gonna watch me grow, and you're gonna watch me succeed." 2 years later, we fired that financial advisor after I grew and was able to quit my full-time job. So how do you get your family and maybe your spouse or your significant other on board? It has to be open conversation.
Okay.
It has to be, you have to have real passion for what you're doing.
Okay.
There may be some proving that you have to do.
Which is fine.
For my situation, it was, we sat down and said, okay, if I can earn the mortgage, that was my responsibility. If I could earn that for 4 months in a row with my company, then maybe we would look at leaving full-time. We would look at leaving the full-time and doing this maybe more full-time. Or, and it was about proving myself. And that's what it was. It's absolutely a leap of faith. It is absolutely a risk, but we know that without risk, there's no great reward. So it was about proving myself, and it was about having a backing of people that said, "You know what, we're going to let you try it."
And what a great point there, because a lot of times people, they think in this, with business in general, that it's some type of, well, when I do this, then I'll do that, and there's this, there's no jumping from stone to stone, and it is a risk.
It absolutely
Any type of, the risk for starting, a McDonald's might be greater than doing this versus, maybe what I do in coaching, whatever, okay? But the point is that people who are in the direct sales world need to understand that there is a leap of faith.
Absolutely.
But it's a confidence in yourself to move forward. You know what I mean? So that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, let's talk a little bit. I said I wanted to get back to your deal about the organization and goal setting and stuff like that. I know that those are big parts of what it is that you teach people when you have new recruits and things like that. So tell us a little bit about, I think you got 2 or 3 things down there that are kind of cornerstones for what you teach them. Why don't you walk us through that real quick, because I think that would be good.
Absolutely. So, in growing a business, there are some very, very key points that you kind of have to keep yourself on track with. And if you've been in direct sales for a number of years, or if you're just new into direct sales, it can be a very overwhelming experience. And you know that the more that you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. The more time you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. It really is about balance.
Okay.
It is absolutely about balance. It is absolutely about setting goals.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to set goals. Don't be afraid to not hit your goal. It happens to every one of us. One of my favorite ways to teach people to set goals is by using a bullseye. So imagine if you're going out and you are shooting a bow and arrow for the first time, or you're shooting a firearm for the first time. Well, the first time you go out and you pull the strings on that bow, or you fire that firearm for the first time, are you probably going to hit dead center?
I actually tried that, and the answer was no.
Probably not.
No, I had a gun, and I missed the whole trait.
Absolutely. Most people are not going to hit bullseye the first time.
And it wasn't that far away either.
And the same way with goals. The first time you set a goal, the truth is you may not hit it. And that's okay, because at least you tried. So what I do when I teach people to set goals is, imagine it is a target and there is a bullseye in the middle. And let's say that your bullseye is you want to hold 5 parties a month.
Fine.
Okay? So that's bullseye.
Fine.
And this is the first month you're trying this.
Fine.
Well, let's say that those outer rings, maybe that's 4 parties a month.
Interesting.
Okay? And then maybe a couple rings out, that's 3 parties.
That's interesting.
And then 2 parties. And then maybe what's your absolute no-go? Maybe that's 0 parties. Okay? And so that's completely off the target. I mean, you clearly missed the target. Okay? It's off in the trees somewhere. And so you get ready and you aim and you have that first month, and you know what? You held 3 parties.
Right.
Are you unsuccessful?
Right.
No, you're not unsuccessful.
Right.
You still held 3 parties.
Right.
You didn't hit bullseye.
Right.
But do you feel like you accomplished something still?
Right.
Yes. Are you discouraged because you didn't hit the 5? Maybe a little, but are you encouraged that you at least held 3? You weren't in the no, you weren't in the 0, you at least got on the target. So then maybe next month you have the same goal. Maybe next month you hit 4 because you've got a little practice in. And maybe 2 or 3 months from then you hit that 5 and you hit that bullseye.
Right.
So we find that people don't set goals because they're scared to fail.
Right.
And they're scared to fail, and so they either admit they never set the goal, or they don't set it at all.
Right.
And if you get close to the goal, you're still successful. So I love using that bullseye.
I love that.
I really love that because it doesn't make people feel like a total failure when they don't hit what they want.
And we live in such a make or miss society, don't we? We live in a society where, either you're a superstar or you're a loser. You're a this or you're a that. There's no, the movie 50 Shades of Grey. There doesn't seem to be any type of distinction that I see. When you're doing, I love that bullseye goal setting. I wrote that down. That's good stuff.
I absolutely love that, and I do love the sport of shooting. So it's probably one of my favorite analogies to use. And you can buy you can buy actual targets for very, very little, and I hand those out at my meeting, and I have them write down what they want. What a fun way to encourage goal setting.
Right. By the way, you talked about the shooting. My wife took the same gun that I had, shot it dead. Just FYI. Continue with your point.
So maybe Brian needs to work on his target a little bit.
Okay, so the first one was what? Was it
absolute goal setting? Goal setting is so big, and don't be afraid to set goals.
Fine.
We all fail at goals. One of my favorite videos was of Michael Jordan. His
I saw that.
His inspirational video where he got picked on and he missed the.
It's like 1,000 shots.
He missed 1,000. He missed the winning shot like 70 some times.
Right.
And
on the line.
Absolutely. And could he have hung it up and said, what, I quit, I'm done?
Right.
Would he be the rock star that he is today?
Right.
No.
Right.
So don't be afraid to set goals, and don't be afraid to fail at them either. When you fail, it just means you get another opportunity to reach for success, and you want it a little bit more the next time.
Awesome.
Time management is another really huge. I wish somebody had sat me down in the first. In my first 30 days in business, I wish somebody had sat me down and taught me how to do time management. And time management is all about finding a balance.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the balance is, you just have to find it. So some of the really important key points, I actually taught a workshop on this at our last leadership retreat.
Okay.
For both representatives and leaders.
Okay.
And it was just about finding balance. So first of all, you have to figure out what your non-negotiables are.
Okay.
Those non-negotiables are your family, your friends, church, work, whatever your extracurricular activities are. Whatever those non-negotiables are. So if you know that your non-negotiable is that you're going to go and you're going to go to church on Sunday morning and you're going to go to church on Sunday afternoon, then you're probably not going to schedule parties on Sunday, and that's absolutely fine.
Right.
So you get a weekly calendar out that's completely blank, and you put your non-negotiables in there first.
That's exactly right.
So you put your work schedule in there,
exactly
you put what time you get up during the day, what time you go to bed, what time is dinner, and then you put your negotiables in there. So you put your parties in there. On Thursdays from 6 to 9, I'd like to have a party. On Saturdays, I'd like to have a party in the morning, and I'd like to have a party in the afternoon. I'm a big advocate for those that do home parties. I am a big advocate for doing 2 on a Saturday, and we can go into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But you put your non-negotiables in there first, okay? And then you start thinking about everything that you need to get done on a weekly basis for your business. And you just write them out. Whether it's you need to do hostess coaching calls, you need to do new representative calls, you need to do sponsoring calls, you need to do team shout-out calls, maybe scheduling stuff on Facebook. Because, Facebook's a big, big time killer for most people.
That's exactly right.
So if you schedule that in your week, you actually have the option to schedule post on Facebook. So you can post all your posts on Facebook that you want to post. You can schedule that to post in a 30-minute time slot on Monday evening at 11 o'clock if you want to.
Right, that's exactly right.
So you have your non-negotiables, and then you have your tasks that you want to do. So you kind of put those tasks in there where you can. So it may mean that once a week, if you have an hour lunch break at work, maybe you spend once a week, take 30 minutes from that lunch break on Wednesday or on Thursday, and that's when you do your hostess coaching calls, even if you have to leave a voicemail. The things like scheduling on Facebook, sending up follow-up emails, things like that, a lot of people get caught up in, well, I work full-time, when do I have time to do that? Well, Brian, do you have to send an email at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when you know the other recipient's awake?
No.
You can send an email at 11 o'clock at night.
That's exactly
right. You can send an email at 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's exactly right.
So figure out those things that you can do at those odd hours. Okay?
I'm totally with you.
And then figure out the things that you have to do, like hostess coaching calls. You need to do those during the daytime, early evening hours. Absolutely. And so you kind of fit all of those into your schedule, whether you work, whether you want to work your business 10 to 15 hours a week or whether you want to work at 20 to 25 hours a week. And now, things come up. I'm looking at my schedule, and on Wednesday afternoon, that's the time that I do my team shout-out calls. Well, you know what? My son has an event at school that I have to be at Wednesday afternoon. Okay? So, what do? Do I just not make those team calls because I'm going to go to his school? No. Your time is negotiable. Your time is, it is movable, it is transferable. It is not negotiable. Okay, so those tasks, you can move them around. They are transferable. I can move it from 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon to 9:30 Thursday morning. I just still have to do it. So it is movable. It is transferable.
Flexible.
It is flexible. Flexible is a great word. Your time is flexible, but it's not negotiable. So you still have to do those tasks.
I love that.
It may mean that, you have to get up an hour earlier one day a week. But if it puts you closer to your goal, if that goal is leaving your full-time corporate America job, what's getting up an hour earlier one day a week if it's going to help you reach that ultimate goal?
That's exactly right.
So setting the time management, because we all get so overwhelmed with, we have to call this person, we have to do this, we have to do this, there's not enough hours in the day. If you set yourself up with a great schedule, then you will be able to get it all done. And I especially recommend that for anybody that is full-time, or anybody that's looking to go into full-time. Because one of the easiest things you can do when you're a full-time representative with any company is get wrapped up with a TV show.
I know.
The pool's open.
I know.
I want to sleep a little bit longer. The pool is open. And that's something that, we struggle with in the summer. Our kids are home. What do we do? So, it's something that we struggle with. So if you find a great balance and really set a schedule to follow, you can make it all work. A lot of people believe that when you do this full time, you do it 40 to 60 hours a week. And the truth is you don't. The truth is I probably still work my business only 20 to 25 hours a week. With parties and everything included.
Because you have more leverage.
Absolutely. I have more leverage. And I don't have to be at my desk at 8 o'clock in the morning and at my desk until 5 o'clock. I can watch that favorite soap opera. I can schedule that into my non-negotiable time.
DVR it, watch it at 3:30. I do that all the time. I do that for football.
Absolutely. You have that flexibility
That's
to
exactly
do that. So time management is extremely important. Never lose track of your why.
Okay, so that's our third thing.
Absolutely.
Goal setting, time management, never lose track of the why.
Never lose track of that why. That why is so important. Now that why will change, and it will cultivate and it will develop, and it might change a little bit over time. You know, it may be that when you first start, it may be that you want to pay off a certain credit card.
Right.
And then once that credit card's paid off, then it's that you want to start earning trips for your family,
That's
for
right.
vacation.
Right.
And then your why might change again to, you know what, I want to leave my full-time job.
Right.
And then your why might change again to, now my child's ready for, you know, is getting close to college, and I can start saving money for college. You know, your why can change for a variety of different reasons, but never lose track of why you're in the business in the first place. And that's extremely important.
That's a good point, right.
When you start, and we all go through those moments where we peak, we go up, we go down, we kind of hit that standstill, that plateau. And that's really when you want to dig in and find your why.
That is
why
awesome.
You're still with, why you decided to do it in the first place, why you're still doing it. And you really want to do that. I would say the fourth thing is be yourself.
Okay.
It's very, very easy to get wrapped into looking at somebody else and going, well, I can't do that because.
Right.
We call those file 13 excuses.
Right.
Because it's an excuse.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes is, you know, you can have results or you can have excuses, but you can't have both.
Right.
So what would you rather have?
Right. That's exactly right.
So we call those file 13 excuses. They belong in the trash can. But don't ever lose track of who you are. When you look at somebody else and you go, well, you know, I want to, so many representatives, when they come into the business, they're scared to get started because they don't know how to do the perfect home party. They don't know exactly what to say. And the only thing that I can kind of encourage them to do is stick to their why. Why did they start the business? What do they love about the product?
Right.
They are going to sell that product, not the product itself.
Right.
Okay? They're the ones that are going to sell it, because people fall in love with people before they do products.
That's exactly right.
So
be
yourself.
Right.
You may see that person walk in the stage and you may go, oh, I can't do that because for whatever reason, they're in a region that has, you know, this.
They got it on the ground floor.
They got it on the ground
this.
floor. They, you know, there's a million reasons.
Right. They live in New York. I don't. You know, it's just
absolutely, absolutely. Be yourself and know that you absolutely can do that if you want it bad enough. It may take you longer, but it doesn't matter as long as you get there. And if that's what you want, just be yourself to get there.
Boy,
don't compare yourself to other people.
That is a host of good stuff right there. And I think, you know, for people who are watching here, that is not only good stuff, but something I think they can take away with and walk away and be awesome with.
Absolutely.
Dare, this was awesome. This was
Thank you.
really, really good. This was some really good stuff. Again, I thank you so much for coming by.
Absolutely.
And just for, you know, dropping some knowledge on us in the direct sales world. So again, my name is Brian Hilliard. That is Dare Robertson, and thanks again for coming. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.